There's a specific moment when a man realizes he's met someone he can't forget. It's not when she's trying her hardest to impress, not when she's performing or proving. It's quieter than that. It happens when she stops trying entirely, when her presence alone creates a space so rare, so unfamiliar, that every other woman becomes background noise. Carl Jung called this the awakening of the anima. The moment a woman's inner power touches something a man didn't know he was searching for. If this resonates, subscribe. This journey continues. Most women have been taught that to be chosen, you must be more beautiful, more interesting, more accommodating, more perfect. But Carl Jung discovered something that contradicts everything modern culture teaches. The women men never forget aren't the ones who added more. They're the ones who subtracted everything false until only essence remained. And that essence? It's not something you create. It's something you uncover. Today, we're exploring 5 qualities of feminine magnetism. Not tricks, not techniques, but states of being that make a woman unforgettable. These aren't about changing yourself to hold his attention. They're about returning to yourself so completely that his attention becomes inevitable. Let's begin. Quality 1, the magnetism of stillness. Have you noticed how the loudest person in a room is rarely the most magnetic? How the woman commanding attention isn't always the one everyone remembers? There's a specific kind of power in stillness, in being so present, so settled in your own skin, that you create a gravitational pull without moving. Jung understood this through his concept of the self, the integrated center of the psyche. When a woman has touched this place within herself, when she's no longer fragmented between who she is and who she thinks she should be, she radiates something unmistakable: wholeness. And wholeness doesn't need to announce itself. It simply exists. And in existing, it magnetizes. Think of a lake on a windless morning. Perfectly still. Every reflection clear. Every ripple visible. That stillness isn't passive. It's powerful. It allows everything around it to be seen more clearly. A woman with inner stillness is the same. She doesn't fill every silence with words. She doesn't rush to prove herself. She doesn't perform anxiety or enthusiasm she doesn't feel. She simply allows herself to be present. Fully. Completely. And men who spend their lives in motion, in doing, in proving, feel that stillness like gravity. One man described it like this. He said he'd dated women who were exciting, entertaining, always creating energy. But there was one woman who did none of that. When she entered a room, she didn't try to light it up. She just sat down, smiled when something genuinely amused her, listened without performing interest, and somehow the entire room oriented toward her. He couldn't explain it, but he felt it, and years later he still thinks about her. That's the magnetism of stillness. It's not about being passive or withdrawn. It's about being so rooted in yourself that you don't need external validation to feel real. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming who you actually are beneath the conditioning and the roles and the expectations. And when a woman has begun this process, when she's touched even a fragment of her true self, men sense it. Not consciously, but in the way a compass senses north. If you want to cultivate this stillness, start here. Before you speak, pause. Before you react, breathe. Before you perform, ask yourself, is this real or am I playing a role? That simple question, repeated over time, brings you back to center, back to stillness, back to the self that doesn't need to prove anything. And that self, unforgettable. Quality 2, vulnerability as power. Here's a paradox most women never understand. The armor you wear to protect yourself is the same armor that keeps love out. Jung wrote extensively about the persona, the mask we wear to survive in the world. It's necessary. It helps us function. But when we forget it's a mask, when we believe we are the performance, we lose access to our own depth. And depth is where magnetism lives. Men are drawn to strength, but they fall in love with vulnerability, not weakness. Vulnerability, the willingness to let someone see you without the armor. Because when you show up without pretense, without the mask of perfection, you give him permission to do the same. And that permission is rare. So rare that when a man finds it, he doesn't let go. I once heard a story about a first date. The woman, halfway through dinner, admitted she was nervous. Not in a self-deprecating way, not fishing for reassurance. Just honest. "I feel nervous right now," she said. And then she smiled. The man later said that single moment changed everything. Because in a world of curated performances, her honesty felt like oxygen. He could finally breathe. Vulnerability isn't oversharing. It's not trauma dumping or using emotion to manipulate. It's simply allowing your real feelings to exist without apology. When you're joyful, you let yourself laugh fully. When you're uncertain, you admit it. When you're moved by something, you let your eyes show it. This authenticity creates safety, not because you're weak, but because you're real. And realness is so rare that it becomes magnetic. Jung believed the shadow, the parts of ourselves we reject and hide, it can only be integrated when brought into light. When you dare to be vulnerable, you're doing shadow work. You're saying, "I am more than the polished version I." Present. I am human, complex, layered, and paradoxically, that humanity makes you more attractive, not less. Because men don't fall in love with perfection. They fall in love with presence, with the feeling that they're with someone real, someone who doesn't need them to perform either. If you've been hiding behind strength, behind independence, behind the belief that showing vulnerability makes you less, try this. The next time you feel something real, let it show. Not dramatically, just honestly. You might be surprised how much power lives in that honesty. Quality 3, the mystery of self-possession. There's a specific kind of mystery that makes a woman unforgettable. It's not game playing, not withholding or manipulation. It's simpler than that. It's having a life so full, so rich, that no one person can see all of it at once. Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, the vast inner world every human carries. But most people never explore it. They live on the surface. And surface-level people are easy to understand, easy to categorize, easy to forget. But a woman who has depth, who has cultivated an inner world through reading, reflection, solitude, creative work, that woman becomes a mystery, not because she's trying to be, but because there's simply too much of her to know quickly. Mystery isn't about being distant, it's about being deep. Think of an ocean. From the shore, you see the surface. Beautiful, inviting, but you know there are depths you haven't touched, worlds beneath the waves. That knowing makes you want to return, to explore, to dive deeper. A woman with inner depth is the same. She shares, she's present, but there's always more. More thoughts, more dreams, more complexity. And that more keeps a man curious, not because she's withholding, but because she's vast. One woman I know is a teacher, but she's also a painter. And she studies astronomy, and she writes poetry no one has ever read. When she's with someone, she doesn't reveal all of this immediately. She lets them discover it piece by piece. And every discovery makes them realize, I don't know her as well as I thought I did. There's more here than I imagined. That realization is magnetic, because it means the relationship will never become predictable. There will always be new layers, new dimensions, new depths to explore. To cultivate this mystery, cultivate yourself. Not for him, for you. Read books that challenge you. Pursue interests that fascinate you. Spend time alone exploring your own thoughts. When you do this, you naturally become mysterious. Because you become someone even you are still discovering. And when a man senses that, when he realizes you're not a finite puzzle to solve, but an infinite world to explore, he doesn't want anyone else. He wants you, only you. Quality 4, the power of receptivity. Here's something most modern women have forgotten. Feminine power isn't about doing more. It's about allowing more. Jung spoke of enantiodromia, the principle that everything eventually transforms into its opposite. In relationships, this means when a woman tries to do everything, to control everything, to prove everything, she often pushes away the very thing she wants. Because masculine energy by nature wants to give, to build, to provide, to protect. And when you don't create space for that energy, when you take on everything yourself, you leave him nothing to offer. This isn't about pretending to be helpless. It's about honoring the dance of giving and receiving. Receptivity is a form of power. When you can receive a compliment without deflecting, when you can accept help without feeling weak, when you can let someone care for you without losing your independence, you create a space where love can flow. I once watched a couple at a train station. The woman's suitcase was heavy. Instead of struggling with it herself to prove she could, she simply looked at the man beside her and smiled. He immediately took it, not because she demanded, but because she allowed. That moment was so small, but it contained everything. Her willingness to receive, his desire to give, the natural dance of opposites meeting. Jung believed psychological health requires balance between opposites, masculine and feminine, doing and being, giving and receiving. When a woman can embody both, when she can give freely but also receive gracefully, she becomes magnetic. Because she's not trying to be everything. She's allowing relationship to be a partnership, a co-creation. And men, who often feel they have nothing to offer a woman who needs nothing, finally feel needed. Not in a burdensome way, but in the way that makes them feel their presence matters. If you've been carrying everything yourself, try this. The next time someone offers help, don't say, "I've got it." Say, "Thank you," and let them help. That simple act of receiving is an act of trust, and trust is magnetic. Quality 5, living from your center. This final quality is the foundation for all others. Because without it, everything else becomes performance. Jung spent his life studying what he called the self, not the ego, not the persona, but the true center of the psyche, the place where you are most yourself, most whole, most real. And he believed the journey of life is to find that center and live from it. For women, this means living from a place of inner fullness, not inner lack. It means your happiness doesn't depend on whether a man chooses you. Your worth doesn't fluctuate based on external validation. Your sense of self remains steady even when everything around you shifts. When you live from this center, love becomes different. You're not looking for someone to complete you. You're inviting someone to share completeness with you. And that invitation is irresistible. Because men can sense desperation. They can feel when a woman needs them to fill a void. And that need, however natural, creates pressure. Pressure to be perfect, to never disappoint, to constantly prove they're enough. But when a woman is whole, when she's cultivated joy and meaning in her own life, the pressure dissolves. He's no longer responsible for her happiness. He's simply invited to add to it. One woman described it this way. She said after years of seeking validation through relationships, she spent a year alone. She traveled, painted, learned to cook elaborate meals for herself, made friends, built a life she loved. When she finally met someone, she didn't need him. She wanted him. And that distinction changed everything. Because he felt chosen, not needed. desired, not required, and feeling chosen by a woman who has other options, who has a full life she's inviting you into. That's the deepest form of validation a man can receive. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But transformation only happens when two whole people meet. When one is incomplete, seeking the other to fill gaps, there's no transformation, only dependency. Living from your center means this. You know who you are. You know what brings you joy. You know your worth doesn't come from anyone else. And from that place of fullness, you enter relationship not as a half-seeking completion, but as a whole inviting communion. To find your center, spend time alone. Not lonely time, sacred time. Time where you listen to your own thoughts, pursue your own interests. Discover what makes you feel alive when no one is watching. When you do this, you become a woman who doesn't need a man to feel complete. But when the right man appears, you choose to share your completeness with him. And that choice, that deliberate selection of someone, not because you need them, but because you want them, that's the kind of love men never forget. Because it's not based on lack. It's based on abundance. And abundance is always magnetic. So here's what makes a woman unforgettable. Not her beauty, though she may be beautiful. Not her accomplishments, though she may have many. Not her performance, though she may be skilled. What makes her unforgettable is this. She's real. She's still. She's vulnerable. She's deep. She's receptive. And she's whole. She doesn't try to be chosen. She simply exists so fully that being chosen becomes inevitable. Carl Jung believed the goal of life is individuation, becoming who you truly are. And when a woman commits to that journey, when she stops performing and starts being, something shifts. Men no longer see her as an option among many. They see her as the only one, not because she convinced them, but because her presence, her essence, her wholeness makes everyone else fade into background noise. If you've felt these truths stirring something in you, if you're ready to stop performing and start being, subscribe to this channel. We'll continue exploring the psychology of authentic, feminine power. And remember this, you don't need to become someone else to be magnetic. You need to become more yourself. Because the woman you truly are, beneath all the conditioning and fear and performance, she's already magnetic. She's been waiting for you to remember.